Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Gabalot Live. This is Kim Walker. It's been a minute, and I'm back on live to talk to you today about how you can stay persistent in pursuing your goals, how you can stay persistent in pursuing your goals. And the case study I want to use this morning is Sha'Carri Richardson. Now, for those of you who don't know who Sha'Carri Richardson is, Richardson is now a world champion in the 100 meters for women's track and field. And so I wanted to use her as a case study because I think it's a very interesting case study when we look at how someone sort of came to prominence very quickly, ascended, came like a flash in the a flash in the pan, I should say, came on the scene, was, celebrated in the moment. And then as soon as she reached these notoriety, and then she kind of crashed and burned at the same time. And I want to talk about that in case you don't follow track and field. I want to bring her story into, give you some background on her story. She won. I was actually I was a little disappointed that I didn't see it live because for those of you who don't know me, I'm a huge sports fan, but my favorite sports are basketball. My second favorite, and very small under that, is track and field. I literally have been watching track and field since I was a child. My favorite track and field athletes, there are many, but among them, I have always kept an eye on the 100 meters for women because it's the premier event, and for men and women. But women, probably my all-time favorite track and field athlete is Wilma Rudolph. Of course, FloJo, but there are many others. This is particularly special. What Sha'Carri Richardson has been able to do is particularly special because women's track and field in the U.S., particularly at the 100 meters. Now, of course, we have Allison Felix, who was certainly a legend, spinning 4 Olympics, 5 Olympics, maybe, perhaps. But certainly we have legends in track and field for women. I think what has happened over the past 15 years or so is the dominance of the Jamaican runners, like a Shelly Ann Price, like a Sharika Jackson, the Thompson, I can't think of her name right now, Elaine Thompson. Those persons who have dominated in the track and field area at the sprint level, at the 100, 200 meters, primarily has been the Jamaican athletes, who many of them who have trained as college athletes in the U.S. and Jamaica sort of taken on this very great pride, and rightly so, particularly when you look at the career of a Usain Bolt a few years back, has kind of taken on this pride of dominating the sprints and beating the U.S. Has been this fierce rivalry between the U.S. and Jamaicans. And so here we have, just a few years ago, Sha'Carri Richardson, who came on the scene. And let me just go and just share my presentation for today, because I want to, it's important that we talk about how she came on the scene, because it's interesting. The way she came on the scene is more interesting in terms of how she came on the scene. I'm gonna see if it'll let me play. If not, then I'll just keep talking, because I never know how this technology stuff works. I tell you, it drives me nuts. But at any rate, it looks like it's not going to let me share my presentation. But I wanted to just talk about how Sha'Carri visually came on the scene. She came on the scene probably a couple of summers ago, probably in 2021, trying to qualify for the Olympics. And she was emerged as the top runner. And she was clocking in these amazing speeds. And so, at that time, we thought she came in, she had this long red wig and looking like a fire I mean, literally fire red wig. And the way she was running, it looked like a burst of fire running. That's the way she looked when she came on the scene. She had the long nails, she had the tats. She was a little, she was that around the way girl. She was, she might say something. She wasn't, perfectly, I guess, crafted and polished and ready for prime time. She might say something, you might have to bleep it out. But she was refreshing for me. And she got a lot of criticism at the time because she had these really fierce, long eyelashes. And so she got a lot of criticism for the look that she had. But then she also, people tend to embrace her. And there were the obvious comparisons to Florence Griffith Joyner at the time as well. Well, she qualified for the Olympic team. And I think maybe less than a month after that, she supposedly tested positive for performance enhancing drugs or some trace of it. I think at the time she said she took a medication that she didn't, it was one of the banned substances. I don't think it was necessarily performance enhancing, but it was a banned substance. And track and field has been very careful about that because of prior doping scandals. And also I think she tested positive for marijuana use. So whatever the case may be at the time, that was the case 2 years ago. She was restricted from participating in the Olympic Games at the time, even though she qualified and even though she was the winner on the American side of things. And so people were really expecting her to come and emerge on the scene at the Olympic Games to challenge the Jamaicans. Okay, so let's set this up. So apparently at the time, she also was grieving the loss of a parent, guardian. So she was dealing with a lot of different issues, and she did not run well in the preceding year after missing the Olympics, in the subsequent year, I should say, after missing the Olympics. She didn't run well. Her showing wasn't great. And the thing is, the expectations were so great on this young woman because, number one, at 19 years old, see, she's not a flash in the pan. At 19 years old, she ran one of the fastest times in history when she was a student at LSU. So she was already an NCAA champion. She was already a college champion. So it was what she did last night was what people were expecting of her coming out of college. Okay. So now she comes on the scene, and I knew something was different about this young woman. She's coached, I do believe, and someone can correct me if they know, she's coached by Dennis Mitchell, who Dennis Mitchell was flashy himself. He was, if he was, used to have these rituals that he would do he ran the 100 meters for the men, and he had these rituals that he would do, and he was flashy and all of that. And so he was a former world champion as well. And so she's being coached by him. And so I kind of recognized in her persona, some of that flashy persona. I recognized it from him when I found out that was her coach. What I noticed, though, when she qualified for the Worlds a few weeks ago, is a very different Sha'Carri. Gone were the nails, gone were the eyelashes, she signified her transformation when at the beginning of her race, she threw off the wig and ran. And I knew then, I was like, okay, this is a different chick. This is a different girl. She looks like she's coming to play. Because when she came on the scene, she came in braggadocious. I'm that girl. I'm the one that beat. Y'all need to recognize. She came in with that. But then when it didn't happen and she had some of these personal issues that she had to deal with, then people kind of tossed her to the side. People dragged her. I mean, literally dragged her. And a lot of people didn't like her anyway but I mean, come on. I mean, athletes, our more popular athletes tend to be a braggadocious type. And, there's some that are very humble, then there's some who are just over the top. And she was just that over the top kind of personality. I think that's just part of her personality. But when she came back this summer, I was like, okay, this is something else is going on here. This and her times reflected. She went back, she did the work, she was vilified, she was tossed to the side. She probably lost, if she had endorsements, she probably lost those. She went back to square one and she came out. And when she threw that wig off, she had these cute little braids and she looked like really honestly a teenager. I mean, she looked so young. And she was already a beautiful girl. And so, but we saw just a different look, a different look. And then we also saw those great times. Well, if you know anything about track and field, they have to do a round of qualifying times to get to the finals. And her times were good throughout the qualifying races, but it looked like they weren't the same times of the Jamaicans. Okay. All right. So when she qualified for the finals, she ended up in the outside lane, lane number 9. And if you know anything about track and field, to run the outside lanes means that you did not run the best qualifying time. The best runners run in the middle lanes, usually 4 or 5. Run in the middle lanes because, and there's a science to this. At the world class level, when you're talking about a difference of a hundredths of a second, running the inside, there's less resistance. Physically, there's less resistance physically to run on the inside lanes than they are on the outside lanes. It's actually harder to run on the outside lanes in track and field because of the physics involved. There's less resistance within the middle of runners than there is on the outside. And it also makes a difference in distance running because the outside lane is, when you're going around the track, is more distance to cover. Okay, and that's why they stagger distance races when dealing with, to make up the difference in terms of why the outside lane is not the preferred lane. So when she ended up in the outside lane, to be honest with you, most of the views, I thought the race was going to happen Sunday. So I was looking out for it Sunday. I knew I was going to be busy. I was like, I said, oh no, I'm going to miss the race. So I just happened to see it overnight. Most of the views, when I went back to look at it, I said, she won the race? I said, oh gosh. So I didn't see it live, but I saw the replay. And I said, okay, did she win? And I wasn't sure because this wasn't televised. Okay. I mean, unless you got Peacock, and I guess, pretty much NBC is kind of restricting its coverage to Peacock, which you now have to pay for. You didn't have to pay for it before. I'm not paying none of y'all streaming systems, nothing else. Okay. Y'all, you're taking off of money. All right. But anyway, so when I saw it, most of the vertical replays of the race didn't even show Sha'Carri for the first 50, 60 meters. She wasn't even in view. The camera was focused. There's a track camera, of course, that runs along with the runners in the 100. And it's helpful. The track camera is helpful for those photo finishes because sometimes the difference between could be literally a hair or a nose. They go by the body crossing the finish line at the as far as who wins. But to get that in most of the views, though, you didn't even see Sha'Carri. Sha'Carri did not have the best start, and sometimes she doesn't have the best start. She came from, this field was packed. Sharika Jackson, Shelly Ann Price, these Jamaicans, 4 of the top women of the times this year, they were in this field. So this was a world-class field. And next thing you know, coming up on the side, Sha'Carri was smoking. Came up on the side and won that race. And so, in fact, most of the commentators, except for the one guy, the British guy, I really like him. He's like, Sha'Carri has done it. Sha'Carri has done it. She's done it. Because nobody was looking at her. Nobody was expecting her to win and to come out in the outside lane to take that race from a field that was already dominated and ready to go. You could even see the look of disappointment on Shelly Ann Price's face because nobody was expecting Sha'Carri to come out the side and take that race. I've watched that thing about probably 50 times since last night, looking at every aspect of that race. Now, I noticed that what a class, and then there was a little bit of a rivalry. It's a little bit of a rivalry between, Sha'Carri and Shelly Ann, because there was some noise talked a couple of summers ago. But Sharika came over to congratulate her, a very class act. Came over to congratulate her, and I think there was a look of shock on Sha'Carri's face. Not, I think she knew she won because she sometimes people accuse her of celebrating too fast, but I think there was just a look of shock and the realization, I finally did it. I finally did it. My hard work paid off. Everybody talked about me. I went through this, kind of public scandal, and you could see the relief. Honestly, you could see the relief on her face. And in fact, when Shelly Ann and Sharika came over, she didn't know where to stand because it's been so long since she has won a race at this caliber and at this level. And there was, and even you can hear them talking about it. You can look at the footage online. You can hear them talking about it. She was like, and you can hear them just kind of giggling like young women do. And in that moment, you could see she was embraced into the world-class elite status. And I love that. Because at that point, again, don't get it twisted. U.S. and Jamaica are still rivals. But in that moment, you saw women coming together. We're the winners. Come into this circle. It was a beautiful moment, and it was a beautiful moment to be celebrated. So why do I want to highlight this today? And I'm going to probably put up my PowerPoint presentation later, since it didn't share. I'll put that up later, so that I can show you the kind of the physical transformation of Sha'Carri. It speaks to the great metaphor about sports is that, and what I like about it, I'm not an athlete. I did run track. That was probably the only sport I participated in. I did run track as a preteen. I didn't run, I was done with it by the time I got to high school. But when the mind, body, and the soul connect, and it results in either a win, the winning of a race, the winning of a game, when a person reaches the pinnacle of their athletic experience, there's a great metaphor. There's a great metaphor in life about that. And that's the reason why I love sports. Because in Sha'Carri's place, she was down, out, she was ostracized, people ridiculed her. They pretty much had labeled, she's only 23 years old, but they had pretty much labeled her a has-been as a 21-year-old. And people talked about her and called her everything but a child of God. But last night, you could see it was pedal to the metal, baby. She came and performed and did what she needed to do on top of that stage. And it was a beautiful sight to see. I applaud her. I congratulate her. I'm excited for her. And I hope that there are persons out here who you've been tossed to the side. You've been maligned. You've been discredited. Maybe it's your fault. Maybe it wasn't your fault. Maybe people told lies on you. I don't know. I don't know your situation. I don't know what the setbacks or the origins of your setbacks have been. That doesn't have to be the end of your story. And that is what's so great and so awesome about Sha'Carri. Don't call it a comeback, because this is where we expected her to be. For those who follow the sport, we expected her to be the world champion. Eventually, then she's peaking at the right time to get ready, inevitably, for the next Olympic Games as well in Paris. And so here, when we look at where you are in your life, and it may not be what you want it to be. It may not be what people are expecting you to be. You may be an underachiever. You may be a person who didn't meet expectations. You may be a person who has been maligned and counted out. I don't care if it's in life, business, your job, your career, your family, whatever the situation may be. Take the example of a Sha'Carri Richardson. If you need some motivation today, go back and look at the race, get motivated, get inspired to become who you are to become to be. When I see particularly the physical transformation, I see, she came out one way, but in order to do the work and to become serious, now, honestly, well, first of all, I was fascinated that she was able to run with the wig and those nails. FloJo did it. I mean, she had big weave and long nails. She did it. But I felt like we're seeing probably who she is right now. She with the braids, with this cute little, cherubic face. She still was dropping F-bombs last night, so you have to blink. So if you're sensitive to language, you have to, go past the bleeps. But she didn't do a whole lot of talking to press. In fact, she talked to smaller press. She didn't talk to the major press a whole lot. She stayed very, very focused, and you can tell someone has been working with her. So I found out later in the hours since she ran the race, her agent is Ronaldo Nehemiah. Now, you got to go back a while if you're a track and field fan and to realize what the name of Ronaldo Nehemiah. Played for the San Francisco 49ers, but had a world-class, also an Olympian, world-class track and field career as a hurdler. In fact, he's the first man to, I think, break 13 seconds in the hurdles in track and field. And then he went on to became a wide receiver, I do believe, for the San Francisco 49ers, and had some success as a football player. But when he was running, Ronaldo was kind of the classic man, calm persona athlete. He wasn't flashy. He was just kind of a classic guy, very well spoken, very mild mannered. And that is who her agent is. And I said, that is the influence. That's where things change. I do believe, I don't know if he's always been involved with her, but I know he's involved with her now. If he's always been, that was the influence that changed. Let's not focus on the flash. Let the works speak for you. Not the look, but the results speak for you. There's a lot of flash and I'm using this as a business lesson. It's a lot of flash in the business space, a lot of online. Folks are flexing, their own yachts. They're in penthouses, they're spending money. They're doing all of that. If that's a motivator for you, fine. Don't knock it. I'm not into it. That motivates you. Fine. Go do what you got to do. But the works should be the reflection, and the results and the outcome should be a reflection of what you're ultimately trying to do. Not what you look like, not what you are bragging about or flexing about or boasting about, but your actual works will speak for you. Now, I'm all for people having a voice. Good luck in trying to diminish mine, because I'm a communicator. My superpower is knowing how to communicate and knowing how to check a person who tries to take away my voice. But I will say this. It was just a remarkable way in which, like I said, don't call it a comeback, but the way she has emerged into where we thought she would be a couple of years ago has been a fascinating study of focus, drive, determination, and shaking off people who will discount you and demean you and degrade you at your lowest point. We've got to be very careful about how we dismiss folks. And a lot of the, honestly, the dismissal of her, it was, people were happy when she started losing. People were happy about that. Now, here's the thing: most people, unless you follow this sport, probably didn't even know the world championships were going on in track and field, because track and field does not get the kind of promotion in the U.S. that it does in Europe and in other parts of the world. In fact, most of your elite track and field athletes have to go overseas to make any money in the sport because it's not covered in the US. All right. And the reason why it's not covered in the US is because other countries are now dominating in certain areas. Just as I mentioned earlier, the Jamaicans were dominating in the sprints, the Kenyans were dominating in the distances. And so we didn't have a quote unquote US star to root for. So when there's not an American star in the mix, then the American media, this wasn't even on, I don't even know if SportsCenter covered it or ESPN covered it. If they did, let me know, because I didn't see it. I mean, I was following USA track and field, and that's what I typically follow, or the NBC Olympic channel. So it's in order to get my track and field news, because no one covers it. Okay. So I said that to say this, is that now she's trending, and she's trending for positive reasons and not the negative ones of a couple of years ago. She's trending because she's a winner, and now everybody's in love with her now. Everybody thinks she's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Be careful for the fair weather friends. Be careful for the fair weather fans. When you're on your journey, whether your journey is in business, whether your journey is in your life, your relationships, your family, wherever you are in your journey, make sure the ones that are rocking with you, the ones that are really in your boat, are people who are genuinely with you through the ups and through the downs, who are with you in the valleys and the mountains. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you don't need these folks who are going to be there when you win. You need folks who are going to be there when you are down and out and on your last dime, your last penny, who are going to support you to get you through the valley experiences in order for you to reach those mountain experiences. Those are the folks you want in your circle. You don't want the folks who are just going to be around when they think you got it going on, and they think you winning, and they want to get some of your clout and some of your shine. And you need to start today to figure out who are those people in that circle who will be with you when you're down, and who will be there to celebrate you when you triumph. You really want to figure out who those folk are. So I just came on just for a brief moment to talk about this particular case study, just in case if you are down and out and and folks are talking about you like dirt. That is not the end of the story. It doesn't have to be the end of the story. If you have a plan, you know what your purpose is, God will provide the provision for you to do whatever it is that God has created you to do. And so utilize the tunnel vision. Get out of some circles. Get away from some folks who are just fair weather, who are just going to talk about you and be your friend only when they think they can get some shine and some clout behind that. Get rid of those folk. Make your circle small. Find people and align yourself with people who are smarter than you. You don't know everything. You don't know everything. So you may need to get some help to help you get to where you need to be in the next level. So I said all that to say this. Now I've got to come back. I got to leave because I'm going to be on IG Live in a few minutes at 11 a.m. today to talk about getting Black Friday ready. So if you're interested in that conversation, I'll be on IG. Follow me. You can follow me on my platforms. I will be on Instagram later. I may come back to this platform later in the week and talk about the same lessons, but catch me on IG Live, because we're going to talk about being Black Friday in the Black. I'm going to work with a group of business owners who are trying to get ready for the holidays. We're headed into Q4. Q4 is a make or break time for most businesses. And so if you're looking for some help, because that's what my business is for, to help business owners become profitable, to help you figure out the minefields in your business that's keeping you stuck, that's keeping you broke, that's keeping you from progressing in your business. And so sometimes you need an objective eye to see what that is. Someone who's not emotionally involved in it. You need, in the case of Sharika, a coach. You need an agent to kind of direct some things around you so that you as the business owner can focus on the work that you need to do in serving your clients and meeting and selling the goods and services that you want to provide. So meet me on IG Live at 11 a.m. today. We're going to talk about it, Biz Boss Chronicles, but I just wanted to come on just briefly on my other platforms to talk about the case study of Sha'Carri Richardson, who is now a world champion who clocked in a 1065. Now, the world record, which has been held since 1988 by Florence Griffith Joyner, I think in the Seoul Olympics, is a 1049. And I think probably the closest person who's been to it either has been Shirley Ann Fraser Price or Elaine Thompson, but no one has broken the 10.5 sub barrier, except maybe Elaine Thompson. I think she did a 10.59, but the 10.49 is still standing. And Sha'Carri did a 10.65, one of the fastest times this year. And so that record may fall at some point. I don't know when. It may fall at some point where we've got a number of women. Shelly Ann is still, she's got to be pushed. I don't know how old she is. She's got to be pushing 40. Well, she's probably mid 30s at least. She's still running at elite level. So you've got the Jamaicans are still out there. There probably some American women are still coming up. But I'm so happy for Sha'Carri, 23 years old, 23. So that means she's got some more in the tank. She stays healthy. She trains well, stays focused. She's got some more in the tank and can probably run faster because guess what? In this particular race, her start was slow. So she's got some things she's got to go back and work on getting, faster in the starting gate. And so I want you, business owner, maybe your 23 hasn't been the year that you want it to be. You started from behind the pack. You've got a chance to catch up in Q4 and move up and move into camera view to overcome the race at the end. You've got time to do it. We're right at the cusp of September. I'm working with business owners. If you're interested, email me. You can send me a direct message. If you send me a direct message with start, then I'll know that you have seen this broadcast or you have seen some of my other posts. Let's get this done. If this is something that you want to do, let's get this done. Let's get ready for the end of the year. Let's crush it. Let's overcome. Leave whatever's behind you, and run the race that is ahead of you. That's all I got for today. I'll see you on IG Live at 11 at Gabalot Group. You can come to my site at gabalot.net. Some things are changing. I'll come on a little bit more than I do. Sometimes I'm just busy working and I don't have time, but I'm going to make at least more of a consistent habit of showing up at a consistent time. So I'll make some announcements about that. But again, if you're interested, I'm a business consultant working on creating paths to profit, because there's no point in doing this business if you're not going to make any money. Right now, if you're not making any money right now, you have a hobby. So let's talk about it. Hit me up and let's go. Take care. God bless. Have a great day.